Oh, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Constant Companion Theory. I am your host, Mr. Ed. We'll start shortly. Here I am. Let's turn the music down a wee bit. I'd like to keep it going, though, you know? It's kind of in the background. Wow, welcome. Another exciting week. Music's still a little loud, huh? Maybe we can turn it over to something else. Cool. So, yeah, you see the tridactyl heads behind me. We will be giving away one of those today. I'll be rolling randomly on a D100 on Roll20, the RPG platform. Very convenient, very convenient. We've got Jared Didway in the YouTube chat. And we can share his comment. Jared's saying hello. We can share that comment. Cool. Okay, so what are we going to talk about? What are we going to do? I feel like I have so much to talk about and do. I could probably just end up being all over the place. Let's give some plugs where plugs are due. Don't forget to check out the alienproject.com, and that's actually the dash or hyphen, I should say, right? The hyphen. Is it a hyphen or a dash? It's a hyphen, right? The hyphen. Oh, man. Alien-project. I've been saying dash, so it threw me off. .com. And that's a Theory site. And of course, Theory was a person who was one of the first people to be presented with the mummies. So this is his book on Amazon. It could definitely use an edit. But what can I say about it? I mean, Theory, he really comes across as somebody who is concerned about the patrimony of Peru and concerned about the proper science on these bodies. That's what it seems to be. Got some great pictures in here. Heard some great stories. There's also some just factual information. So here's a nice shot of Maria and Victoria on the right. It's Maria's hand on the top there. Getting a little bit of glare. Okay, so I mean, not a bad place to start for your adventure here. Since we're on about books, we have this book here from Jesus Cabrera. He was very kind to send this to me. And, you know, there's some really interesting pictures of the tridactyls in here. And they've sort of took artistic liberty with the art, if I'm not mistaken. So they've really accentuated what it looks like. But you can see quite clearly who we're dealing with. And then, of course, these have been identified as males, maybe. But really what they look like to me are the last remains of a tail. So if you've been following along, since these beings do not have lungs, the tridactyls, they are likely amphibians. The tridactyl limbs, the 3 fingers, 3 toes, that's kind of a clue too. We do have frogs and salamanders with 3 fingers and 3 toes. So that lack of lungs is interesting. I wrote a paper recently. Be sure to look that up. It's called Nagalomorpha. And it's a proposed nucleid because even though they have those or lack those lungs and must have a cutaneous respiration system, they also have other strange morphology, such as a nearly circular, or as I say, a omicron-shaped rib cage with gastralia abdominal ribs in the front. Not as many as the paired ribs. And they have a furcula like a bird and some other strange anomalous features. So it's because of that, got to be an amphibian. We got Jared here saying no mistaking. And so I no longer think, because Maria is lacking a coccyx, and we have one of those. Yeah, isn't that weird that we retain our tails, but the amphibians are like, nope, don't need that anymore. But for some reason, we have them just in case. We might need them again. What? I don't know. Evolution is turning to be a lot more complicated than I thought, and likely a lot more manipulative. If you look at the DNA results of Maria, which, if you don't know, she came back with definitely some human DNA. I want to say a small amount. Maybe was it 30% perhaps? And other primate DNA, like 2 chimpanzee species, bonobo and Pantroglodytes. How cool is that? So she doesn't have that coccyx, so that means she lost her tail, which means Maria might have been with a tail and maybe even started her life something like a mermaid. What? It's ridiculous, I know, but let's look at, well, for fun, we should probably look at, if you haven't seen my little videos of my speculative art here. Let me mute this before it makes my own head go crazy. Yeah, let's start sharing some stuff. I think it's time. What do you say? Get you guys looking at something else besides my bearded mug, right? So here we go. Let's just go with entire screen. Check this out. All right. Here we go. So here's a little AI speculative art of what I suggest is in these beings. And those who've been following along might know that I do believe I found certain things in the eggs of Artemis. So let's go from speculative to some eggs, which looks like, look at that. I don't like that extra. I don't like the way my camera looks on that one, right? There we go. Maybe more like this one. That still brings it out too wide. Okay, so we jumped into something else here, but why don't we talk about that? So did we oh, okay, no, never mind. Let's keep going. So what we're looking at here are pig dragons. I'm going to show you some other pig dragons today. I don't think mine are as nice as those, but yep, here we go. Right, it's so weird. They might have different stages of development and cycles, says Jared. Absolutely. Even within the eggs themselves, the eggs are, I forget the proper term, but they're like asynchronous. They're all hatching and they're being fertilized at different times. You know that myself and the constant companion theory, we've been predicting the science. So we predicted that these were marine creatures because of the myths, and then oceanic or saline type minerals were found within the skulls, proving that hypothesis, I would say. We believe that it's going to be a front limb development. So we're saying we. I say we. I'm sorry. I use that pronoun to be like, is that like the British we? It's we. It's me. But I'm seeing similar patterns in Luisa's eggs. Yes, they are born pregnant. They are Russian dolls. Tribbles, as someone said. Whether you want to use modern myths or... Yeah, and I can't help but think that this information is still within some of us subconsciously, perhaps. So we're just going around the egg. This one appears to be hatching. There's a nice, looks like a profile. Looks like we have a couple of limbs there. See some other coiled. Looks very similar to what we're looking at in Luisa. Okay, so let's check out what we think we may have found with the Louisa. Let's turn up the volume a little bit. Some nice music on this classical. I like this, a little more chill. So here's the image, and I'll tell you what, that scorpion tail you're looking at, let's go ahead and get full size on that as much as we can. I guess that is maximum. I wish we could zoom in, maybe. That would be cool. So here we have what I believe to be another, at least mass. We might be looking straight on to the face of a baby dragon. I'm not sure. Is that a limb or another tail going across? And I feel like that scorpion-looking tail tracks. And I don't want to say that there's actually a scorpion tail there. I don't think there is. Maybe that'd be another reason for an insectoid comment, wouldn't it? But I think it tracks with the mythology. I think even Scorpio is like, so Leo, if you've been following, Leo I don't believe is actually a lion, actually a basilisk or a serpent prince. And I think Scorpio too is actually if we were to look at the Sumerian translation, it's like the thing that stings. So it's not specific that it's a scorpion. So I don't know, is that meaning little things that are dangerous? I'm not suggesting again that this is a stinger on the tail. Again, it's probably what? Could be its middle toe or something. I'm not sure. And it's just, but the symbology I think is there. What I'm saying is that scorpions seem to be yet just another animal that is related to these beings here. All right, so that's a pretty cool pick. I hope you guys like that. Hey, Jared, since you're here, let's go ahead and I'm going to take a look at my tridactyl numbers. Jared, if you'd like, since you're here today, I'd like to give you a chance to win the head of Josephine. Thought that would be pretty cool. I think I closed my folders though because everything was moving really slow. So I closed all the folders and I'm like, let's just start over here. So let's see where that would be. So welcome again. This is Tridactyls, the Constant Companion Theory. I'm your host, Mr. Ed. I am one of the few so-called ancient alien theorists or paleo contact theorist who actually has been an archaeologist. I have to admit, though, this hat is a little bit of LARPing, but my uncle gave it to me, so I'll wear it. But really the hat I would wear was a big F-off leather hat with a big skull and crossbones on it. That's what I would really wear. So this is I'm a little faking it here today. So let's put the numbers up on the board. Here we go. Jared, I don't think you have a spot yet here, do you? So, Jared, if you could pick a number, we're throwing out, and I'll see if it's available. Yeah, okay. Well, we don't want to spend too much time on that screen. That's kind of boring, right? Well, I think let's go ahead and take a look at the eggs ourselves up close and personal. Oh, but let's look at my little buddy first. Yeah, you know who uses paleo contact and actually ancestral narrative is Paul Wallace. I'm Paul Wallace. I would love to work with Paul Wallace. What am I looking for? We're looking for this. Actually, we don't want to go here because they promised to do the eggs, right? Okay, so I like to think I am doing science here, and at the same time, I'm sticking with my same method, which has been to, here's some eggs here, which has been to share and educate with the public. So we're looking at some DICOMs, scans of the eggs, and you might see certain masses that might likely be something right there. Let's see. He says 42. Let's see. Why do I feel like that number sounds like it's taken? 42 is taken by Tony D. Next would be a 41 or a 44. I can put the list back up also if you'd like. So, why do I feel as though I am qualified to tell you? Can't be faked, exactly. It's weird. The 43. Oh, let's see. I think, but no. But I said, I said it's 41 or 44 is available, my friend. Yeah. 41 or 44 is available. Or I can show you the number list. And or 33. Let's check out 33 for Buddy here. That's a good number. And that's so good that it's been taken by Asunder Fruits. So now what? Listen, let me just put the numbers up for you, bud. Can you see them? Tell me if you can see them. Hold on. I'll share the screen. All right. There's your numbers. Come on. This is for tonight's D100 roll. I wish I had a better setup there. I wonder what I could do with that. Let's see. That one's good. I'd rather have that. We'll use that for now. So you got a number for me, bud? Anyone else out there, drop a line. I should be able to see you in the chat depending on what. Roll 20 for me, LOL. So would you like a 20, sir? You can do that. All right, let's go back to some other stuff. We're going to look at me for now because we're talking about these Hongshan pig dragons. It was because I saw these in the archaeological record, typically made of jade or some type of greenstone. This said to me that this was something specific that was an indicator that the ancients were well aware of what was in these eggs. Now, these very well could be reproductions, or these could be the real thing. I'm not even positive myself. I know this one has quite some weight to it. So, Hongshan pig dragons. Okay, here we go. We got a 72. Yeah, there is nobody in that section. All right, Jared, you are in for tonight's drawing. And since we're talking about that, you can see the heads right behind me. This is what they look like before they were painted. I have one today painted by local South Florida artist, Jesse Malero. He's also a cosplayer. He can build any set. He's also a professional body painter, painter of bodies. So these are always cool. You know, I point out the heart-shaped face all the time, the cordiform-shaped face. But what I don't always mention is one of the reasons this is called a heart is because this kind of looks more like a heart. Bum, 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 bum. Maybe. And why does cup and hat and head all have the same etymology? Why would cup and... It's a little twisted, huh? Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, we'll be giving away a painted head tonight after we cover all the important stuff, such as have we looked at all the proper eggs together, and am I doing a good job of explaining things to you? Ooh, so let's talk a little bit more. How did I know that the beings were going to experience parthenogenesis? And that's really just sort of a combination of different creation myths. I mean, I couldn't even name one right now. But typically there's some sort of mother goddess, and she is able to give birth without any assistance. Now, luckily, I was already familiar with this concept with Komodo dragons. So to conceptualize that these things could do that, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, we got interesting. That was probably on my last cup comment, right? All right, Jared, anybody else out there, come on in. We've got the constant companion theory. We're talking about how the constant companion theory was able to predict the biology. The other thing we were predicting was the front limb dominance of I want to say it's called the Urodeli, the salamander. I shouldn't even try to pronounce some of these things. The salamanders. So many salamanders, which, the actual model has significance to certain people, spiritual significance. Likely it's because it looks something like that. So I've been expecting to also see these beings with front limb dominance. And I'll tell you why. I want to show you some other reasons why. Let me share this screen from X tonight. Oh, that's not it. That's like a different one. That's the one we want to share. Hold on 1 second, please. Please hold. May I have a... There we go. Okay, so here is a petroglyph from the Americas. And now I made it small. That's better, right? You can move that. I don't want to do that either. Sorry. So here's a petroglyph from the Americas, the child. But there's more to it than that. Because here it is also in ancient China. It's the Ji, the child. And most strange of all, at a site in India, that if you remove just Ganesh's head, because the myth of Ganesh's head is not necessarily that it has an elephant. Let's see. Oh shit, it does. What is he talking about now? I missed it. I don't get to. I guess I see your messages after I've already said something, Jared. So I'm like behind my own time here. So this here is Ganesh's head, and it's not that Ganesh is supposed to have the head of an elephant, is that its body, the whole of Ganesh, resembled the head of an elephant. So as I knew that this here child figure was coming to us in those eggs, I have to admit. Let me share it on another screen here. Oh, we were able to see it actually. Entire screen. So again, this is Ganesh's head. I think we might have another one also. And here is a Semitic letter. Appears to be the child between two serpentine figures. So there is some sort of child figure that may be born from parthenogenesis. I don't want to get too much into it. I'd like some people to make their own conclusions. Hopping back and forth. It's actually good to use my TikTok. My X, because it shows that shows everything I posted recently. So here's again another couple of shots from Cabrera's book there, and people had suggested it was a male and those were penises. I would say no, those are not. Those are actually the tails still, so indicating that perhaps that is some sort of young. Note the squat bodies, long limbs, broad shoulders, following that furcula. I think there's another child figure here, but this might be a female actually. This is Kia. So again, if you've been following some of the tridactyl stories here, we believe in, yes, that there are theotherianthropic letters, that is, God, beast, men letters, such as Kia here, whose head seems to resemble that of a tridactyl head, even with the occipital bump, and even a slight dip in the front that could represent that kappa. Now, again, that pneumatic spot was identified by others. I'm suggest giving it a name of importance, and it's also where we're likely going to find the parietal gland. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So what else? I feel like there's definitely something I'm missing to tell you right now. Otherwise, we can start thinking about giving that Josephina head away. Let's see. So we covered some of the reasons why I think these things are happening. Hermaphroditism. So there's a few myths out there that talk about gods like Loki and Set from Norse and Egyptian mythology, respectively. They switch sexes and have children. So that was a clue to me that there was some sort of sequential hermaphroditism going on, which again is another amphibian trait, another frog trait. So there's so many fingers pointing to reptilian. It's unfortunate that some of the other researchers didn't get some of this information out, but I'm doing my best to share what the research that they've shared. I'm just taking the information they gave me essentially and running with it. And of course, that's the same with these scans. That's what we were going to do. We were going to go back to the scans and we were going to say, hey, what can we find in these eggs? Because I think there's another shot of eggs that we were all just looking at together. This looks like a side view, lateral view. All right, here we go. Sharing entire screen now. All right, you guys having fun out there? I'm surprised there's more people in the chat, actually. You know, sometimes I'll take a peek around. I'll be like, well, what do we have happening in X? Are people hopping onto the show and watching? And by the way, if I know you, you're welcome to pop in also and say a few words. That would be great. I know there's a lot of opinions out there. I try to keep the narrative kind of strict. It's the biology and it's the archaeological evidence. So you won't hear me talk about portals or dimensions. If there is a portal, which there's a couple of different ways you could look at a portal. A portal could be a craft, or a portal could be perhaps just a doorway into the subterranean world, which, you know, the subterranean world takes on a negative connotation to us. But when you think about it, in subterranean domains, we have our aquifer, our fresh drinking water. Ooh, scary. Fresh drinking water. We've just seen, I think we have a tendency to demonize everything. Everything's scary, right? Lou Elizondo, everything's scary. We got to stop these things, right? People saying that they're demons. I'm sorry. I'm just not that afraid of stuff that I'm going to think that all that's happening. Maybe if something bad happened to me or somebody, I would think differently. But we're supposed to be looking at the eggs, aren't we? I forgot. I got all discombobulated. I got off on a tangent. Okay, so check out this. Let's look at this lateral view of the eggs here. So I'm glad I go back and look at these because sometimes you're focused on one thing and you don't see another. So, I mean, this could be, there's a sort of a serpentine shape there. So I don't know what that is, though. Those black dots could be possibly eyes. And of course, we can return it to its other setting here. Or actually, this is not a return. This is an additional setting for an inverse, right? So, yeah. If you are a medical professional, feel free to contact tridactyls.org, my friends over there, and they will give you access. Here we go. It says, yeah. Otherwise, it gets all over the place with these theories, and I kind of have to rear it in. I mean, I do have a theory on, as you know, the letters. So in many alphabets, the first three letters are going to represent this trinity. So even in our alphabet, the alpha is like saying the number one father. What else could it be? I'm using folk etymology here based on phonemes from around the world, and bet is like Tibet. It is like Baiti, which is like house and love. I'm trying to think of some other ones here. Well, anyway, and then the letter C, I think, represents the child. So maybe a better representation is like in the Sumerian tongue, Ka, Ki, and Ku. That seems to be their trinity. In the Brahma language, the first alpha letter is Ka. Yeah, portals and dimensions are cool. It just leaves people just wandering all over the place. Have we covered everything today? We're talking about why the constant companion theory is ahead of the curve on the science because we're using the archaeology. And I started to see patterns such as Chinese pig dragons and the child, indicating that there is going to be some sort of metamorphosis. In fact, any talk of shape-shifting in mythology, I think the shape-shifting isn't actually necessarily I can just turn into an animal. It's more that these beings are capable of swimming, capable of their wrists seem to indicate that they could probably move on all fours still. That bipedal position they were in might even be unnatural. I don't know. I put out some pictures that maybe they walk on the fronts of their feet and their arms limp at their side. I think we covered a lot today. We looked at the eggs. What else? Anybody wants any comments on fandom? If anybody's watching Andor, I like to talk fandom throughout the year too. I'm waiting for the new Star Trek, Strange New Worlds to come out. And what's to look for this week? I don't know. We'll take it one discovery at a time. Hopefully I'll get to Peru someday and I get to see these bodies up close and personal. Please look for my paper, the Nagalomorpha, which is suggesting a brand new clade for these beings as proto-amphibians, but more importantly, as basal tetrapods. That is, they exist early on in the geological record. Do you know they walked instead of swim? Miles seems to think that they were bipedal, so we could go with that. Obviously, they swam at a younger stage, so I would imagine that's something that they would keep on doing, which I talked about the aquatic ape theory. The aquatic ape theory needs to be reinvestigated. That was one of those poo-pooed theories, and I mean, I didn't know either way myself, and that required some reinvestigating. And I like the theory that perhaps bipedalism simply came from being standing up in water. How cool would that be? All right, I think we are going to wrap this up because it's been a half hour. That's fine. I don't mind a half hour. We're going to move into the next stage. Hopefully some people will drop us some comments. We're going to move to the next stage, which is we're going to give away the Josephina skull. Yeah, man. Yeah, man, because they've got that morphology. They have morphology of birds and reptiles, plus they have the dated morphology of the amphibians. So that's my theory that I'm putting out there. And I also use the term Naga for their cultural significance. And that is the Naga morpheme can be traced throughout humankind's language. And that is the it's a nasal It's the Naga and you'll find that in many different languages. And I believe that is evidence of this larger global culture, an example of hyperdiffusion where one culture was leaving the Himalayan plateau and spreading out across planet Earth. That's my theory. I'm sticking to it. Let's open a new screen for our Roll20 game today. I do have a tridactyl RPG in the works, Rules Light, if anyone's interested. Thinking I'll do a little fundraiser, and I'll charge some money to play, and then we'll use that money for research. All right. Share this groovy screen with you, huh? How's everybody doing? This is Mr. Ed, your actual former archaeologist. I've actually said, hey, you see that tree line over there? Let's go dig. And pulled out an arrowhead, which probably went to collections, wasn't kept or treasured or anything like that. We didn't hide the fact that we found it. I don't know, maybe they did actually. I think they get here. They're hoping probably we don't find anything, but they actually got me, and I found something, right? So might not have been good for their game plan. We're gonna share a screen here. Are we? Yes. Okay, Josephina giveaway. Yeah, so the main theories have been the proto-amphibian, basal tetrapod theory. The Nagalomorpha is that theory. That's the greater clade name I'm using. And then coincidentally, the Nagamorphine. So very confusing. I love it. Nagalomorpha for the biology, Nagamorphine for the sound that I was able to trace from the Himalayan plateau associated with saline lakes, eventually moving down into Europe and into South Asia, that phoneme or morpheme. And then the Theotherianthropic letters and symbolism in general, right? The heart shape. The heart shape is from their face, associated with ancestor worship, fertility beings, mother goddesses, creator beings associated with this face. It makes sense now. The heart isn't just some random thing. All these strange symbols I've felt as a child left me feeling a bit uncomfortable, like a sort of uncanny valley effect that I would see in floors and spirals and ionic columns in the paisley. Which another name for paisley is buto, which is a sort of proto-language term for fertility. In fact, an ancient city in Egypt, Buto, is where the mother serpent laid her eggs. Well, I don't know if she laid her eggs there, but where the mother serpent resided. But it sounded cool at the end. This is true from what I know. Did it happen? I don't know. Who's out there? Give a shout. This is your last chance. Give a shout out. Here we go. I'm getting my hands warm for the die roll. Let's go to this screen. Let's go to this version. All right. There we go. Fun stuff. Look at that. We've been doing it good. So I think I'm definitely going to try to always go live as much as I can. Sundays at 7 p.m. Why? Because that's the old In Search of time slot. Mr. Nimoy, rest in peace. Here we go. All right. Here comes the roll. Let's get the numbers out too, though, right? We want to have the numbers so we can see them and be like, is this real? Is this really happening? Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose on Earth, right? We'll have some of the numbers up. Okay, that's good. I can scroll down, right? All right, checking the chat. Got Jared Didway in the chat tonight. Thanks for coming, buddy. D100 coming at you live. Live long and prosper. Ooh, yeah, 61. Who has lucky number 61? Let's see. Nobody. Wow, another week of this. I do add people though, so I mean I add people and I remove numbers. So it's gonna keep getting somebody's gonna win eventually. While I work at Fry's, you working the fryer today? What? Awesome. Awesome. I don't think that was a bad show. Sometimes I get a little off track, but it's fun. I mean I hope someone was going to win this the first week. I didn't even really think that like, oh, there's going to be numbers that come up that people don't have. And I've been slowly adding people, and you can see that some people have some other chances on there. So that's fun. We're going to do this again. We're going to keep doing this until we give some of these heads away. I've got too many of them. I mean, look at them. They're like tribbles, somebody said. I said they're like Russian dolls. Again, live long and prosper. This has been a great show. I feel great.